Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Backup Stories. This is episode 6. My name is Justin Townsend. I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Rob Newmeyer.
Howdy.
Rob, another week has come and gone. Comic books have come and gone. They've returned. It's another weird week with issues.
Big two, yeah. A lot of excellent independent stuff.
Yes, definitely. Weird stuff for the big two with Convergence. Marvel had like next to nothing this week. Before we get into comic book stuff, another movie trailer came out.
Oh,
Fantastic Four.
Yeah. So Fantastic Four. I mean, I already started off with no expectations for this movie.
Well, the stuff that was leaked sounded really bad.
And still, we don't know what percentage of that is even correct.
Yeah.
Because I heard it was going to be a found footage film. Then there was all the Doom stuff. Then, the Johnny Storm stuff. And just every little thing possible.
Yeah.
But what I saw from this trailer definitely was above what I even expected.
Yeah, I agree. The first trailer they showed a few months ago, I remember you texting me before I had actually gotten up, and you were like, Fantastic Four trailer. And I saw it, and I tweeted out right afterwards, and I was like, this wasn't the dumpster fire that I was promised. And I think that thought continues with this trailer. I came away from this trailer kind of excited for the movie, which I did not anticipate at all.
Yeah. Now, I semi-enjoyed the other two films.
Really?
Look, it's the only time you're probably ever going to see the Silver Surfer for quite a while.
That's a good point.
Sure, the Galactus stuff was disappointing.
Yeah.
But always when you see those characters or any character for the first time on screen use their powers and stuff, it's exciting.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
100%.
So sure, a script can suck and stuff like that, but you're watching something that you enjoy the source material.
Yeah. I remember watching them for the especially with the first one. I mean, the first one I watched and I was like, it was okay. But again, the standards for comic movies weren't where they are today.
No.
Looking back at it now, you're like, yeah, this, like, looking back at it, you're seeing it with a finer eye, and you can realize it wasn't that great. But I mean, the one thing that really stood out about those movies was Johnny Storm.
Yep.
I mean, Chris Evans nailed that character.
Yeah, he was
unbelievably.
Absolute prick.
And couldn't believe that they actually cast him as Captain America, and I thought that doesn't fit at all. And then he's molded. So we learned that Chris Evans is really good at acting in superhero movies.
Yeah, and he could bulk up beyond belief.
Yeah. So back to this one. So excited. I mean, it's definitely got a much different tone going for it. It looks like a lot of it has been taken from the first trade of the Ultimate FF. The Baxter Building is more of a think tank, and Reed is brought there. Like, I love the part about in the trailer about Reed that they mentioned, where it's like, what's so different. They're asking what's Dr. Storm's name? I can't remember his first name.
And Dr. Storm's fine.
Dr. Storm is fine. We'll go with that. But they're asking him, like, what's so different? We've given you money before. And he says, Reed Richards. He has the answers to the questions we haven't even thought to ask yet. And I thought that stood out really well. Like, that captures how brilliant Reed is. And I think I don't think it looks so dark. Like, we complain a lot about movies that look like overly dark. And that's been a big complaint about the Batman Superman film. But like this one, like, sure, like the lighting isn't, it's not like bathed in sunlight and stuff, but I don't know,
to me, it fits the tones of the X-Men movie, the last couple X-Men movies.
Yes, agree.
And if it's going to be a shared universe in that sense,
I forgot about that.
Then,
like, I came away with a slight feeling of like hope, a little bit watching it. You're seeing the characters come together. It looks like there's going to be like a bit of humor in it, because they at the end they show Ben, who I think looks really good. Like, I think they nailed the Thing in a big way.
Surprisingly enough, I think we need to see more action, obviously.
Sure, but like, I like him jumping out of the airplane or the helicopter and then making a little crack at the end. So I mean, for me, so far so good. I was going to see the movie either way, but like, I'm surprisingly optimistic at this point. It could still be terrible, and I reserve the right to change my mind at any time.
Yeah,
but I think it looks pretty good.
Excuse my yawn.
I know it's really exciting. I could tell.
Thank you. No, I love watching crappy movies anyway. So if it does wind up being crappy, then I'll have just as much fun as if it were a movie that I really enjoy.
All right.
Yes.
So also going on right now is C2E2, which I'd love to go to one day.
Looks exciting. Actually, Twitch TV is doing a live stream on the show floor.
How does the show floor look right now compared to NYCC?
You know what? When I even put it on, it was like right 9 a.m. their time when they opened the door, so you saw people snaking in.
Because I've seen some pictures of cosplay, and it's like I can see carpet. Like I shouldn't be able to see any carpet.
No, I don't even know the size comparison of
Very true.
The convention center and stuff like that. But I'll show you later on tonight. You just click; it's right on the front page.
That's cool. So some news has come out, not a lot, but I guess the big news of the day is that Frank Miller is returning to co-write with who is it? Brian Azzarello.
Yep.
Dark Knight 3. What's the title there? It's slipping my mind.
Destroy All Humans?
Probably.
No. Well, you could just say Dark Knight 3. That's fine.
It has an actually interesting tagline that it's slipping my mind. We'll look it up.
I'll look it up. You go ahead.
But so far, the internet hasn't been set ablaze by the news. A lot of people seem to be very, very skeptical of what's going on here. And I think I share the worry of the internet. I had read the first Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Returns, and I thought it was great. I mean, Batman v Superman is taking a lot of inspiration from it. I thought it was definitely a cool thing. I thought the movie that they put out, the animated movie, was really good. The Master Race.
Yes.
I knew it was something strange.
Destroy All Humans.
Yes, pretty much. That works just as well. I cannot remember if I ever read The Dark Knight Strikes Again.
It doesn't matter because it was crappy.
And that's what I've heard. And if I haven't read it, that's probably why. But this has been hinted at for a while now. Like I remember about a year ago, there was a lot of smoke surrounding this with Frank Miller and Scott Snyder.
Mm-hmm.
And that never came to pass. I think Scott was even being like very, very coy about it. Like he was sitting down looking at stuff. Like he definitely brought up the name Dark Knight Returns.
But again, back then
it could have been.
No, but back then though, issue 40 was supposed to be Scott's last issue of just the regular Batman series. So maybe if he didn't extend that.
That's true.
But I mean, it seems to me like writing any numbered Dark Knight sequel would be, something that he would jump on.
So what are your thoughts on it? Just like initial, like, hey, they're making another one of these. What do I think?
Okay. The last couple of things that Frank Miller has done just has not excited me whatsoever.
What was that book he did?
Holy Terror.
Yeah.
That was supposed to be a Batman story, but he just repurposed.
That's right.
All of the art to be his own character. Like there was Catwoman in it. It's terrible. I have it at my house if you want to read it.
I've always heard that it was really bad, and so like I've never been a huge Frank Miller fan, so I never felt the urge to read it.
No, to me, early Miller stuff, his Year One, his Daredevil.
I read I definitely
just the first Dark Knight is awesome.
Yeah, but it's maybe I just caught on too late, and I started reading some of the later stuff that he's done, and it never really like grabbed me.
Yeah, well, to me, it's like. So I love. Let's put it to music. I'll do a music analogy.
Oh, okay.
Like I love the Grateful Dead. So if Garcia was still alive, I don't think I would want him singing still.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah, it's like
time's kind of passed.
Correct. No one to go off into the sunset kind of thing. And so the only, to me, what I think is going on is that they're probably just paying Miller to use his name. And I think Azzarello is going to do the heavy lifting because Azzarello's Batman stuff is excellent. His Broken City storyline was excellent. He does good work.
Oh, yeah. Like I was a huge fan of his Wonder Woman run. I'd never read any Wonder Woman before.
Mm-hmm.
When the New 52 started, I was like, I want to check this character out finally. And this feels like a good time to do it. And I thought that entire long form storytelling that he did was fantastic.
Yeah. And 100 Bullets, the first couple of storylines for that, excellent.
I need to give that another shot.
Yeah, I think you'd enjoy it.
All right. I have the first, like, I think it's like the oversized hardcover, and I read it, and I think the art was throwing me off on it, and I could not get into like the art. I can't remember who's doing the art on that book. If I look behind me, I might be able to tell. No, I can't tell. It's too far
It's the
away.
same guy that did the art for Broken City. I know that. I'm bad with names.
Me too. But like, I'm going to give 100 Balls another shot. But like, hey, it's going to come out, and I'm going to read it. It's interesting that they use the Superman S in a weird way, where it's like it almost looks like it's a doomsday cover where it's dripping down blood, and it has 3 different strands coming down to do the 3. So Superman's going to be involved again. And now, was Superman a big part in the second one? I can't, like, I don't know. Like, I that's why I must have not ever read this, because it's not standing out to me what happened in that story.
No, it was other Justice Leaguers.
And that's why there's that terrible picture of Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and we don't know who the artist is for this, right? They haven't announced any artists.
No, not that I've seen.
But they've been working on it for like 6 months or something. So we should say, it says fall 2015. So we should definitely see it. If they've been working on this thing for 6 months already, we should definitely get it. And hopefully it won't be delayed.
Anything could happen. I mean, look what happened with like the Watchmen stuff. That was all delayed.
What was that book with the Joker and Batman that Azzarello was going to do? It was like Azzarello and Lee.
And he did a Joker, but it was Joker.
No, not maybe I'm not
Didn't
thinking.
he do?
He did do Joker.
One-off?
It's not Azzarello though that I'm thinking of. I know there was
Brubaker did one.
There was a book that was announced. It was going to be like a 4-part thing where the Joker and Batman had to work together, and there was some sort of disease that they'd have to like work together to do something with. It was supposed to be 4 issues. Jim Lee was going to draw it. It's completely, slipping my mind who was going to write it. I'm going to look that up when we start talking about books, but I can't remember what it was. But like, it was a thing that was announced and then just never came out, and so that was disappointing. But we'll see. Yep. I mean, it's definitely got cultural significance. The Dark Knight Returns. I mean, like I said, it's influencing Batman vs Superman a ton. So we'll see what it looks like when it comes out this fall.
Yeah, I think, and they're obviously going to be capitalizing on all of that. That's why they want to release it as soon as possible.
Oh, yeah, totally. That makes sense. And there was, it hasn't been announced yet, but there's big rumors going on that something that I'm not familiar with, wrestling, CM Punk is going to be writing something. That's the big rumor going on right now.
Yeah. He's at C2E2. He has a panel of his own lined up. Well, no, not a panel today. Sunday it is. I know he's always wanted to write a Punisher story, and it's interesting because when he just did this last story in the Thor annual, I had so many people come into the store that I've never recognized, and then phone calls on top just asking like, hey, do you have the book that CM Punk did? And I mean, his story was what, 7-8 pages maybe? So his name alone is going to draw people that just have never been into comic shops to, come and get anything that he writes, because he promotes the hell out of his stuff. He's all over Twitter.
Yeah. I would be interested to read it. I always find it really cool when somebody from outside the industry comes in and writes books. Like we've seen Gerard Way come in, write the True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys.
Killjoys, yeah.
Yeah, the Umbrella Academy. He also did.
Excellent.
He did that Spider-Verse intro, Edge of Spider-Verse one, which was actually like really cool. Like, so if somebody else from the outside the industry is going to step in and write something really cool, I always find that super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the Batman book. It is Europa #1. This was the image for it, and
that definitely never came out.
Yeah, it never came out, but it was a Jim Lee book, and I was looking to see. Yeah, it was Brian Azzarello. I was right. So Brian Azzarello and Jim Lee were going to do this like 4-part story, and they announced it. The cover image was really cool and never came out. So
hopefully it's not recycled stuff or.
Oh man, I guess we'll see. Well, Joker's dead, right? So they can't even use that stuff.
They could come up with anything.
Oh God, comic books.
Yes. And Jim Lee was rumored to be doing the art on the book for a long time.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, comic books, let's talk about them.
Yes, you start.
I will start. So the first book that I want to talk about is sneaking into my top 5 favorite series right now. That's Ninjack #2. From Valiant, Matt Kint writing, Clayman on pencils. I mean, you read this right before we came in the room. I mean, I messaged you and I was like, I'm talking about Ninjack. This book's really good. I can't not talk about it. What did you think? I mean, you only read it a couple of minutes ago.
I like it a lot. I mean, just reading this book alone, like, I love this series. I like Ninjack as a character, but the first thing that came into my head when I put that issue down is I want Matt Kindt to write Daredevil.
Yep.
And like, this could have been an excellent Daredevil story. It just felt like, you know, you had those mob type connections, and
one of the characters feels like the Kingpin in a way.
Correct. Yeah.
That was one of the things I thought of right away.
But you know, just alone, Ninjack as a character is excellent, and the art is amazing. I like how Kindt just describes little details.
Yes.
And there's a scene, again, remember, this is a spoiler cast. We spoil things. So if you haven't read your books this week, go ahead and read them and then check out the list of what we're talking about, because we're not going to hold our tongues.
No, we're not.
There's a part in the middle of this book that is so damn cool. It's kind of like,
I'll show you now.
It's going along, and then you just hit this weird little storybook in the middle.
Yeah, transitions from like regular pages to this like very strange, like as Rob said, storybook.
It felt like I was reading like something out of Nancy Drew.
It reminded me a lot of those 50s news strips where it was just like,
sure.
It's like like every week it would be just a different scene going on, and then it like slowly transitions out of that and then goes like onto the actual book on the table that they're looking at.
Yeah, I thought that was brilliant.
That comics need to do more of this type of stuff. Like it's hard to like, innovation in comic books. Like we see innovation in video games all the time where it's like, oh, that was like a really cool thing that they did. And comic books, it's like kind of hard to do that, right? Because you got your panels, your story and stuff. But like, you could do innovation with panel layouts and stuff. But to do something like this where in the middle of the book, it's like they almost just interrupt what's going on. And at first I thought it was an ad. I'm like, this is a weird looking ad. Then I flipped the page and I was like, oh, this is part of the story here. And I mean, the story that's going on in this book is really interesting. I mean, you have Ninjack, the super spy. I think he works for MI6. He's part of Unity, which is their super team. Now, I mean, I've said this on our intro show, but you could pick up and read Ninjack and not read any other Valiant book. It's pretty on its own. I haven't come across any other members of Unity. I mean, this is only the second issue. They make no real references to anything else going on in the Valiant universe. So by all means, pick this up. But, he's got to infiltrate this weapons dealer. And to do that, he's got a
casino or something like that. Yeah.
And he's got to get into this guy's inner circle. And to do that, he has to do some things that you may find not that great. But it'll show you like he's told like, pick anybody in this club and kill them, shoot them in the back of the head. And you're like, well, this guy's an assassin. Most of these people are bad. He's going to do it. But the way that he goes about doing this, it shows what type of, ninja he is. He always has something prepared. He had staked the club out the night before and put these things in the air, let him identify people. So he finds the worst of the worst. And like Daredevil, finds a way to take him out where it looks like he's dead, but he's not. And then the book goes on from there and ends in a battle scene. And also, so far, both of these issues have had lost files on him, where it's a completely different artist. It is also Matt Kindt. It is Butch Geis doing the art, and it's a story from his beginning where he was just learning how to do this type of stuff. So like two issues into this, I really like this. Like I wish that Valiant would have started their movies with this. Like they just announced a whole slew of 5 movies that deals with Harbinger and Bloodshot. And they're going to tie
Harbinger
together.
Wars.
Yeah, the Harbinger Wars where Bloodshot comes in. And those are all trades that you could pick up and they're all great. But for something that was a little more simple, like I would love to have seen them start with Ninjack, because right now this is my favorite Valiant book. And I really like Valiant a lot. And this has surpassed all of them in 2 quick issues.
Interesting.
So Ninjack number 2, you have my recommendation in a huge way. Now, Rob, you came and you showed me this book I had not heard of, and now I want more of it in a huge way.
Yeah. Empire Uprising, IDW, and that's Mark Waid and Kitson on art. Now, Empire was an old series. I believe it was Guerrilla Comics that originally, it was 5 or 6 issue series.
It's a decade ago.
Maybe 7 issues or so. Same team. They put out a story, and then it went nowhere. It stopped. DC bought the rights, but just reprinted the same 7 or 8 issues, and then that stopped at the same point. Like nothing else progressed from it. And now years later, the rights have reverted back, and they went to IDW. But this is actually a sequel. It's a year later. It's beautiful, man. So
Yeah,
name wise, it's a story of God. What is his name?
begins with a G.
Yeah.
So basically, this guy is the first supervillain to ever take over the world, and he institutes martial law.
Mhm.
And what happens in I had never read the first 7 issues. His daughter. The only thing Rob told me is that his daughter dies in the first 7 issues, and that's all you need to know. And that is really all you need to know, because I read this and thought it was really awesome, and now I want to go back and read the other stuff, but I didn't really need to know it.
No. So Golgoth
Golgoth
is his name. I can't be expected to remember that.
It's not an easy one. I wanted to say Gorgon, but that's not it.
So, it starts off just to kind of get a sense of the world. A teacher is talking to her students, probably like 7, 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
And you could tell how much of a dictatorship this guy runs, like tight ship. And they're coming up to the exact year anniversary of the death of Golgoth's daughter, and they have a remembrance, and it's a moment of silence.
3 minutes.
3 minutes. No one can talk. Cover your mouths, tape your mouths, because if you talk and you're caught, you're shot. You're dead. No questions asked.
And they show like nurses covering babies' mouths so they don't make a sound.
Mm-hmm.
And they show people who completely forgot about the time being brutally shot down. And it gives you a sense of like, oh, he's taken away war and taken away disease, but it shows
hunger,
the way that he's done these things.
Yeah, it's almost like, correct. It's like the Nazi regime almost.
Yeah, exactly.
He eliminated disease by picking out all the genetically fit. It's really cool though. So this deals with an uprising. You have a group of, I would say, like 12 or 13 people that try to storm his base during these 3 minutes. And that's what a majority of the book is like what happens in those 3 minutes. This is one that I kind of want everyone to go pick up if they can, because
fair enough.
It's a beautiful start to a story that I hope continues on, because it's such a built up world in such a short amount of time.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, for a setup of a first issue, not having read the first 7 issues that came out a decade ago, like I was able to pick this up and be immediately invested in the characters going on here.
Correct. Yeah. And like it already cast doubts on people that are in his inner circle. Like, are you behind this? Are you behind this? I enjoyed it.
And he's a pretty menacing looking villain.
Oh, he's a prick.
Yeah.
He like during those 3 minutes, one of his troops comes running in to tell him like, look, we're being attacked, and just blasts the troop through the head. He's like, you talked, Yeah. Yeah. So Empire Uprising, Mark Waid, IDW, Kitson on art.
I'm going to go back and get that first trade for sure. I really liked that a lot.
Yeah.
All right. We will go for something that I really liked a lot to something that I'm gaining steam on a bit, and that's Convergence #3.
Mm-hmm.
So this was the first issue I read that I actually felt like I kind of got what's going on here. We've been like, Rob and I have been talking about this book a lot. It's the big thing going on in DC right now. So I'm trying to stay up on it. I don't want to not read it, and so I not know what's going on.
Yeah.
I think that this one stood out to me because there was a lot of Batman in it.
Yeah, tons of Batman and Batman related stuff.
Yes. And so that's why it was easier for me to grip onto. Still, a lot of this deals with the Earth 2 stuff. But it's starting to branch off, and like now you're starting to see characters that, if you've been following the New 52 or the actual DC universe at all for a while, especially Batman wise, you're going to recognize a lot of these villains. And actually looking back at it, a lot of these are from Morrison's run.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. Because you have Flamenco, you have Dr. Hurt, Professor Pig.
Yeah.
But again, you don't know what Earth they're from because
Man-Bat tier,
Uh-huh.
the Riddler, and then it looks like Wonder Woman from, I think that's Flashpoint, right? Where she has the big hole in. No, that's not Wonder Woman. I always think that's Wonder Woman. It's not.
No, it's not.
It is another one of the Batman villains.
Correct.
So yeah, like,
Well, this one deals. So at the end of the last issue, an unsavory character emerges that the Earth 2 characters have to kind of rely on because they're trying to figure out still what's going on and navigate this planet that they have no clue where they are
who is this guy? He looks really familiar, and I wasn't able to place him.
He's one of the magicians from like the blah blah blah. What's the name of the book?
It'll come to you.
I want to say Sword and Sorcery.
All right, so he's another one of the DC books.
Mm-hmm.
It'll come to you if you stop thinking about it.
But yeah, he's a powerful magician that needs their help basically, and brings the Earth 2 characters to a safe zone, basically.
That's underground.
Correct. Yeah. And from there, big loss. Not from that group of Earth 2 characters, from the split up of Earth 2 Batman and Earth 2 Dick Grayson. That's a pretty big event. Like, we already knew that there was going to be a new Batman in Earth 2. They had announced that a long time ago.
Well, now we know why.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that, and I was pretty surprised to see him blow himself up in an act of sacrifice. And he take out a whole mess of villains. And I mean, I'd like to go back and read Earth 2 because I like this Batman. Like, did he hold the same standards that Bruce did in the Earth 2 book where he wouldn't take a life? Because he has no problem with it right here.
No. He was a badass.
Nice.
Like he drugs himself up to get his powers.
That I did. That I saw him mention that a bunch and did not know that either.
Yeah, he pops pills.
Well, it makes sense because he's like probably late 50s at this point.
Yeah.
So I thought at the end, the end reveal was ridiculous. I wanted to text you about this, but thought we would hold off. So at the end, you see Grayson, who I thought was Alfred last week, because I don't know anything. He gets shot by a version of the Joker in the same way that Barbara did in The Killing Joke, and he can't feel his legs and is now paralyzed.
I doubt he's paralyzed.
And he says, my legs, I can't feel
No, come on, he's going to be the new Batman. There's no way that he is not the new Batman.
I didn't even think of it. So I didn't know that there was a new Batman coming. Okay. I didn't know that they had announced that. So seeing him get shot there, I'm like, wow, they're doing the reverse. Okay. And that was kind of interesting. And then brutally, you see that the guy who's creating all of this come and just take the Joker out in a very graphic way.
Yeah, he's like, these are annoying on every world.
A plague in every timeline. And so it ends where, this guy's asking Grayson where the rest of his team is. And so it ends off there. And so the ending of the book was enough to grab me and make me think about it a bit more. It was the first time that I was seeing characters that I was familiar with. And how long does this go? Is this eight issues?
8 issues.
So this was number 3, and it's weekly.
Technically 9 if you count zero.
So last week you said was the first book that you felt actually stood out on its own, where it actually felt like not an intro issue.
It moved the story along enough. Like, to me, 0, 1, and 2 could have been one issue. I'll say that forever. It just felt like there wasn't enough in each issue to make it its own.
Yeah.
But then this one definitely moves the bar quite a bit.
I'm just happy that they've stopped fighting in that desert, because it felt like that battle was going on forever, and at least they're in a different place now. And we'll see where this goes. But at least this was the first one that left me like, okay, like, all right, I'm interested to see what happens next. I'm interested to see what other characters will come up, and I'm hopeful that we're going to run into other characters like the pre-52 Batman and like see what's going on with him. And
I don't think you are. Honestly, I think this is just going to stick all Earth 2. Man, I don't know. But the guy I was trying to think of his name, it's Demios. And he was from the I just pulled it up too, the Warlord series. So that's why I was like sword and sorcery-ish.
Years and years and years ago, there was a Superman standalone comic that dealt with somebody, and I thought his name was Demios, and he gets replaced. Like Superman becomes dictator of Earth, and you find out it's because he's been replaced by this guy pretending to be Superman because he's looking for something. They're looking for, I don't know if I can't remember what it was called, but maybe it'll sound familiar to you. It looks like Superman is looking for Demios, but Demios is actually looking for his wife who was lost. And Superman comes out of, like, after like a year or so, Superman is able to come out of whatever holding cell he was in, and they fight over a whole bunch of realities. And like when I saw that name, that was the first thing that grabbed me. And I mean, we're going back. This is like mid 90s, maybe.
Was it an Elseworlds book?
It was an Elseworlds tale. Okay. It was not a main. I don't think it was a main Superman story, but like my history of what's real and what's not from back then doesn't really stand out, or I can't really remember. So now that's going to bother me for the rest of the show, and I'll find out afterwards.
Fantastic.
Great. Why don't you go ahead and I'll try looking that up.
Okay. Kaptara, Image Comics. That's Chip Zdarsky's new book. And how do you even pronounce his last name? McLeod?
Yes.
I'll say McLeod. Yeah. So this has been on a lot of people's want list, I guess you could say. And especially since Howard the Duck came out, and people have been quite enjoying his writing, hilarious stuff.
I've been looking forward to this book.
This kind of jumps into the semi-serious, I guess you could say. You know, there's definitely comedy written in there, but there's ramifications that these guys have to deal with. So basically it begins, it's almost like a Star Trek crew. You know, you have your kind of Greek god looking captain. You have like the jockey douche muscle for the ship. You have your doctor, and you have like your scientists, basically. So they were on a mission to Mars, right? That's where they're going.
They're going to Mars.
So on the way there, stuff happens that sends them off course, and they need to get out of there. And through that, they crash land on a planet in the solar system of Kaptara, and shit just goes south because first off, the planet is just wacky beyond belief. You know, there's pollen that is just floating through the air. They can kind of breathe the air, but they don't know if this is going to affect them or not. There are just crazy huge monsters that are roaming around, and they have no clue what kind of civilization, if any, live on the planet. So they crash land, get separated. I think it's going to wind up being a wonderful tale.
It seems like it would be. It's got a lot of heart to it. Like, and I didn't expect that. Like, the main character here, what's his first name?
I'll tell you, like I said, me and names, I'm not feeling well today. So, but yeah, he's the nephew of who set up the mission. Go ahead, you can keep going. I'll find his name.
And he's gay, and he is he's like very witty and snappy. And I thought there was a really great line in here. It was one of the other crew members, so he's defending himself against the big muscle bound Marine guy.
Keith is the main guy's name.
And one of the other crew members goes up to him and was like, "Look, like, I get it. Like, you probably had a rough childhood, and now that you're a man, you're not going to take any crap from anybody. But like, there's a time and a place, and it's learning that time and a place where it's like, you know what, like, I'm not going to take crap from anybody, but some battles aren't worth fighting." And like, I guess the battle that he was in with this guy really wasn't worth it at the time because they're in this like stressful part of the mission. But I thought that was like a really interesting way of looking at a situation. It's like, the people who've been bullied their whole life, they get to a point where they don't have to deal with that anymore. Like, they grow up, they become adults, and like, having that recognition of, I'm an adult now, and I'm either going to push that out on other people now that I can, or that I'm just going to just realize that was a time then, and I'm different. Like I'm different. It's not going to affect me now. But like that was something that I feel like isn't really displayed in comics, like that type of idea or feeling.
I mean, technically, the reason why he even goes on this trip is because he has nothing left on the planet to live for.
Yeah.
His parents don't talk to him, no relationships, no friends. Like it seems like his aunt is the only person that he really talks to.
And so he gets on a spaceship and flies away from her.
Yeah. Yep. Put me on a mission to Mars, please. I think this is going to pan out to be something special. The coloring is beautiful, and the species of I don't even know what to call them, aliens. We'll say aliens that they come across are wacky and offbeat, and like something is wrong with these people. It just seems like they're just stuck in a different time, like to us, stuck in a different time. It's almost like they're like way back in the Victorian era, like they're just knights in armor, and they speak weird, and they have servants and robots and weird big monsters that they ride.
Yeah. And so I like the way the book ended. It was like, oh, so, here's what's going on in our book. And it was like, all right, let's see here. Here's some things that are coming up. And this is what made me really want to keep reading the book. So in the next month's issue of Kaptara, Cat Tanks, Watchful Hours, Mr. Help. And it says, from Chip and Kagan to you with love. And it's just a picture of a cat tank. And I was like, okay, that's enough for me to read the next issue for sure.
Yeah, just that that image alone is great.
Ridiculous.
I could see that on like T-shirts and stuff coming up.
Yeah, I think this book is going to be a big hit.
Mm-hmm.
It's
very much so.
Zdarsky is like, I really feel like he's hitting the high notes and coming into his own. And I mean, between Sex Criminals and as you mentioned, Howard the Duck, like the iron's never been hotter for him right now. And I think this is the right book at the right time.
Yeah, and I know it has sold through.
Really?
I mean, stores might still have some, and chances are it's definitely going to be going to a second print. Most Image books do get a second print.
That's true. They get many prints.
So I could definitely see this hitting another print.
Very cool.
Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars number 4. I was going to let Rob keep going with the song.
No, I stopped.
Man, I'm slowly becoming a Star Wars fan.
Of other things Star Wars.
Yeah. Like I've been fighting with people on Twitter a little bit and some friends because I started watching the movies because I'm like, I watched the trailer last week and now I want to go back and actually like invest in this stuff, and I just can't watch old movies. I can't get past the visuals of old stuff, but that's just me. And I don't have the nostalgia for it. But man, these comics, I'm getting into them. Like I picked up this one. I had actually not read issue 3 on Star Wars, and I was just on Vader. I read the first 2, and I think I missed the third one. And then so 4 comes out today, and Vader's on the cover, and I wanted to just pick it up and read it. So it's Jason Aaron, John Cassidy doing the book here, and this book jumps all over the place. Vader's on the cover. It starts with Vader. It ends with Vader. It's Vader coming back to Jabba to do some negotiations, and it's really good. So here, I'm going to read this little part here. Vader comes in. We'll begin the negotiations now. Give the Emperor what he wants, and he will allow you to live. This concludes the negotiations. And so it's this conversation between him and Jabba, which was actually really interesting because they didn't, as far as I know, like, and forgive me if I'm wrong, they didn't interact in the films, right? Vader interact with Jabba? I don't think so. And I'm sure there's people out there screaming that I should know this, and I'm sorry that I don't, but I'm going to once I watch all the movies. But like it's a lot of Vader.
I can't even picture it.
It's a lot of Vader and Jabba in this book. Like Vader's going to leave after the negotiations have concluded, and Jabba's like, no, stay. Like we need to honor your presence here and watch something die. And so it goes into that a little bit. We get a little bit of Han and Chewie, some more Leia, some more Luke, who's still trying to become a Jedi and actually, reaches out and says that he's no Jedi. It jumps around a lot, this issue. We have somebody who's looking for Han Solo in Mos Eisley. Back it goes, that's an interesting thing. There's another bounty hunter looking for him. it goes back to Vader, and then it ends, of course, with the first appearance of Boba Fett. And so I'm sure that's going to get everybody excited.
Mm-hmm.
I'm becoming a Star Wars fan, and it's because of these comics, and I couldn't
and the trailer.
But really, like it started with these comics, and because I wanted to at least have an idea of what's coming up in the movie, or get into the universe a little bit. And I really like this, and I could not have cared less when Marvel got this license. Like, I thought, okay, we're gonna put out a couple of issues, and the artists or the writers will come off the books. I feel like they did that with something else too, where there was like another big thing that Marvel did where the artists and the writers came on, and then like eventually they kind of fell away. It was like another thing like Star Wars, and it's slipping my mind of what it was. Like, they got the license for something, and people, like, big names came on and then jumped off, and it's like slipping my mind what it was. Maybe I'm thinking it wasn't Marvel now, because most of them stayed.
Yeah, they stayed for a bit.
So I can't remember what it is I'm thinking of, but I really like this. Like, you didn't get to read this one, right?
No, I'm a couple issues behind on Star Wars. I'm pretty much keeping up to date with like Darth Vader, and
Darth Vader's really excellent. Like, he's the best part of the book so far to me. We talked about it with the first issue of Darth Vader, but like, there's parts where you just feel bad for him.
Yeah.
And knowing who he is now, like, like knowing and having a persona, like, this is actually Anakin Skywalker. If you can look deep enough, you could see it. And they're on Tatooine, or they're not on Tatooine. Where is it? They say it here. He talks about Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then they mention Tatooine, and Jabba says, "Who knew anyone who was ever born, anyone of note that was ever born on Tatooine?" And you just see Vader like staring out into the distance. It's like Aaron's doing a really good job of just bringing out emotion, like in all of these characters. Like, this bounty hunter that they introduce, I know nothing about who she is or what's going on, but I'm instantly taken with why she's looking for Han Solo.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wait, let me see. Is there a picture of?
Yeah, and she's got her face covered. This is her. She's looking for Han, and
I'm sure people know who she is, and it's just, like I said,
us not knowing, or if this is being Star Wars ignorant. So sure, like, that's who it is up here, and I'm sure if Rob is right. If you've been a big Star Wars fan, you're probably like, I'm gonna smack these guys if I ever see them for not knowing this. But we're trying.
We're trying.
We're trying.
Yes.
I'm really glad that Marvel got this license, and it started it over for me.
Okay, here's something. If, let's say, Marvel got the Star Trek license,
would I read it?
Yes.
I think I would.
Yeah,
I really do. I think I would try getting into it, because like, I've always been interested in more Star Wars than Star Trek, but I like the new Star Trek movies that came out. It's like, it's so deep. Like, where do you jump in? Like, I would never be able to jump in with the Dark Horse stuff. I have no idea what I should jump in on and not, because I don't know the history. I only have the movies and a very basic understanding of the movies to jump in on. And like, I mentioned this on the Talking Games podcast this week when we were talking about the movies. It's like, I want to read the novels that came out. Like, I've always been interested in whatever happened after Return of the Jedi, but never knew exactly where to jump in. So if anybody can give me a recommendation out there on what's like a good spot to jump in with the novels. Now, I understand that they're not canon anymore.
No.
But it'd be nice to like just read something and be like, okay, now this stands on its own, and like the movie thing is going to stand on its own. I've always been interested and just never knew where to jump in, because there's so much of it.
You know the perfect person on Twitter to ask.
I do.
So
I need to talk to Matt.
Yes.
So it's something that I'm going to do. But man, if you're like me, and I realize that I'm in the minority here of not really being a huge fan of Star Wars, and like, we're kind of like hesitant about jumping in on these books, I say give it a shot. I think that they're really good. And I think that if I was a fan of Star Wars, like a big one, like I feel like I'd be enjoying this just as much. It feels like there's enough there that it's not just pulling in new people. Like,
have you talked to any big Star Wars fans and asked?
No.
Yeah, we should do that.
I have
okay,
to
look,
ask
if
Matt.
you're a big Star Wars fan,
reach out to
and
us.
you were reading these books, tell us if we're nuts or if like you like it too.
I'd be really interested to know that, because that would tell me if it's just successfully pulling in new readers, but maybe aggravating longtime fans, or maybe longtime fans really like this.
And who's to say longtime fans even read comics, though? That's the thing.
True. That is true.
Yeah.
Well, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
The book I want to talk about is Avengers World.
Yes.
So Avengers World, who is doing this one? It's
Now, this takes place before the events in the last couple of issues of New Avengers.
So Avengers and New Avengers is doing its own thing. They jumped forward 8 months, and for the last couple of weeks, or last couple of issues rather, Avengers World's been filling in the gap of what happened during that 8-month time jump. And this is Frank Barberi doing this, and it has Marco Cicchetto. Now, Frank isn't the usual writer for this book. It's always, isn't Nick Spencer?
Spencer did some, Hickman did some.
Okay.
It's been jumping around.
The first thing I want to say about this book is, I mean, Cicchetto's art is ridiculous.
Correct, yeah. I mean, I have a feeling a lot of people are going to be getting like tattoo designs out of some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it almost seems like David Mack-ish to me.
I think he's one of the most underrated artists in the industry.
Oh, by all means.
I mean, his Punisher run was fantastic. We got to see him draw a little bit of Superior. What was it? Superior. It wasn't Superior Spider-Man, but it was the other book. Amazing Team Up.
Superior Team Up.
Yeah, and before it was Team Up, it was something else. It was Amazing Team Up.
No, Avenging Spider-Man.
Avenging Spider-Man. That was it. I knew it was an A. He did some stuff in there, and I mean, it is some really gorgeous art. And this guy needs to get on bigger books.
And Shadow, whoever did who did the colors, because that is like even bigger than writing and art of this book. The colorist like really hits a home run.
Andres Massa.
There you go.
So this book, what I like about it is that it's been filling in, not like step by step, but like Hickman's Avengers has an insanely large web to cast, and there's characters all over the place in different spots. And this particular issue is drawing back to, like, I'm going to say like the 7th or 8th actual issue of Hickman's Avengers run, where there was that quarantine zone that was, I think it was in Japan. I'm trying to remember.
It was.
And
because they sent Shang-Chi to investigate.
They send Shang-Chi to investigate. And then in Avengers, one of the two of them was Avengers and New Avengers. A couple of weeks ago, you'd see Shang-Chi come with a massive clones of himself, and like he's made a one-man army. And so this goes into explaining how that came to be. And I mean, that's what I love about this run with Hickman, is that we're referencing stuff that came out 3 years ago. And like we're getting the answers to it. And I mean, that's the way Hickman does his storytelling, where it's an extremely long play. And now we're getting the answers to all this stuff. So this issue fills in those gaps in that story really well. And like, I'm not super huge on Shang-Chi. Like I haven't read a ton of his stuff.
You know what? There is not a lot of it though.
Didn't he have that book that came out a couple months ago? It was like Deadly
Hands of Kung Fu.
Yes.
And then he did there was a Spider Island mini.
Yeah.
And then there was the stuff where he trained Spidey.
That was cool. And that's where I really know him from.
And
that
then
stuff was awesome.
There was old Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. There was like Marvel magazines, black and white.
I didn't know that.
Kung Fu magazines. He was in that. So yeah, there is some old stuff, but like more recent stuff, you know, he did some guest stints in like Heroes for Hire and stuff like that.
And also in the middle of the book, we get a little bit of Namor.
Yes.
And
his struggles with
his
the decisions he's made. Yeah. And more Black Swan, who is one of my new favorite characters.
She is cold.
Yeah, she is. Like, she's so manipulative.
She really is. I'm trying to think of the character she reminds me of. Like, almost like a worst version of Emma Frost.
Yeah, you could say
she Emma Frost kind of does it in the shadows. Like, you know, she plants a seed in your mind that might come into play later. But the Black Swan is just very up in your face.
She's right in your
face about it. Like, you're weak. Like, you know, we're culling worlds, and it's all over your face that you can't do this, hero. And then, you know, hero is definitely bolded there. And then Namor, being Namor, just slaps her around. But you could tell, like, you know, this is another thing where you could see those cracks that are showing in a big way right now in Avengers. Like, you know, months ago they were forming on Namor. So, I mean, if you're reading Avengers and not reading this book, you're doing it all wrong. I definitely, like, it fills in. Like, I really didn't think it was going to be important. Like, okay, it doesn't matter what happened in the previous 8 months. Like, what matters is what's happening right now. But this book really fills in nicely some of the stuff that we saw. Like, we saw that third group of Avengers use that cannon to try and keep the. I'm trying to think of like that. It was
The Armada.
Yeah,
that was
the Imperial Armada.
Correct.
Coming in to wipe out the Earth. They used it to defend the Earth for a while, and it was like, where did that cannon come from? It kind of at the end shows where it's coming from here.
Yep.
So Avengers World is super good, and really, you need to be reading this if you're reading any of Hickman's other stuff.
Especially if you have a deep interest in it. Like,
Yes.
obviously, if you're going to be one of those people who burn out with event kind of things, then sure, you could skip it. If you like to read every little thing, then this is well worth it.
Yeah. What else do we have?
Guardians
of the Galaxy. What is this? This is 26.
Mm-hmm.
This book has some really great highs and some really, I'm not gonna say lows, but like there's like lull periods with this book for me.
I didn't like this issue.
Really?
No.
All right. We disagree about something. Somebody write this down.
Yeah. You know why? And I'll tell you why. Okay. So they hit their high in the beginning. Then it took a little dip. And then like it took a dip during the all new X-Men crossover, the trial of Jean Grey.
The crossover stuff that they've done for me it's where the book has taken lulls.
Yeah. And then it took a rise again with some of the Rocket stuff and the Venom origin stuff.
The Venom origin stuff was one of I think the best issues of the year, where they actually go to the planet of symbiotes, and the symbiote, we find out what they're really about. And like that book got no notice. Like I feel like nobody talked about that. I mean, Spider-Man, that the symbiote costume came out Secret Wars in the 80s, and we got the actual meaning of what it is and like what that race actually does. Like it's talked about so negatively throughout the universe, but we don't know the history. And Bendis, I can't remember what issue it was, but goes back and explains
probably
the
4 or 5 issues ago. That's what it seems.
Yeah. And it was a beautiful issue that gives you an entire new light on this species that's been around since the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it got no attention.
No, I didn't hear it. You were the only person I talked to it about.
Ridiculous. So why don't you like this?
So then coming out of the Black Mirror stuff. Black Vortex. It's a mirror, though.
Yes, it is a mirror.
The Black Vortex stuff. Like, that just seemed to just drag everything down, because that went into Captain Marvel and Nova and Guardians and...
yeah, I started reading...
It was too much.
Yeah, I started reading, I'll say like the first 4 or 5 issues of it. It was also an all new X-Men.
And then it had bookends. It had its own...
Yeah. And like usually I like
issue 1, issue 2.
I don't mind that type of stuff, but the Black Vortex story didn't really grab me. I mean, they did the same thing with Battle of the Atom, the X-Men event, where they like every week it was in a different book, but sometimes they were like double shipping the books.
You know what, Battle of the Atom though I liked.
I did like Battle of the Atom, yeah. They were shipping issues 5 and 6, where it was like, here's an all new X-Men and a Nova issue in the same week, and it was just like it was too much. And the story wasn't great enough to stick around with. But like, I wish I had read the last.
Well, that's my next point.
Go ahead.
People who are just reading Guardians, like if they didn't grab the kind of oversized ending,
which came out this week,
Black Vortex, there's stuff in here that's 100% changed for good. So you'll be reading this issue and it's like, okay, when did that happen? When did that happen? Who the hell is that? Why does he look different? You know,
let's not, we won't bury it. So Kitty Pryde is center in the, front and center in this book. She's got cosmic powers now, and Gamora also has cosmic powers. And I didn't read that last issue of the Black Vortex, and I was like, I guess I should have read that. And
it would have helped.
It would have helped in a big way. And the first thing I noticed about it, I think this particular issue is beautiful.
Sometimes, I'm not going to deny that.
I love this scene here where, they're in, of course, being the Guardians, they're in this rowdy bar, and Kitty is on top of Peter kissing him. But I'm like, is her hair on fire? It looks like her hair is on fire. And then later you find out that she's got these new abilities. I'm like, oh, interesting. You look at Gamora, and Gamora looks like I recognized from the way she looked from the beginning of Black Vortex.
Yep.
So was that it for the issue, that you didn't like it because it throws you this curveball if you weren't reading the book?
Yes.
I totally get that. I could totally get behind that and understand it. And then let me see in the beginning of the book, because I kind of just skipped it, but let's see.
It does. It kind of fills you in, but I don't think that for 1, 2, 3 big things, 4 big things technically.
Kitty is also engaged to Peter.
Correct. Yeah. So 4 big things happen in this previous, ending issue of Black Vortex that that, just reading one paragraph to try and catch up on that, it doesn't feel right to me.
What did you think of the story? If you could separate that, like we're moving into like new territory.
Mhm.
Peter's been elected president of Spartax. He, in the previous issues before Black Vortex, or even it was during Black Vortex, he brings down his father's corruption.
Yep.
And he, without, they don't need to actually be running for office. People can just vote them the president. So Peter, like it comes to light that he's been voted. He had known it, but the rest of the team didn't know it. And so they go back to Spartax, and now he's got to confront the fact that they think that he should lead the planet. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
It is. And I mean, his response to it is even good. It's like, look, I'm the one out there fighting these kind of things. I don't want to be the one leading people. So that part of it I like. I like all the little mini scenes of, because they're in this huge palace, obviously, the headquarters of this empire. And you see everyone in like all of their glory. Groot's running through a forest, all happy.
Drax is fighting people.
Yeah, he's training the Empire. Rocket's like taking a bath and getting a massage.
My favorite was Flash, though.
Uh-huh.
I thought that was really, really great. They show this great panel of Flash looking over this alien city with these ships flying in the air, and somebody comes to him and he says, I'm just enjoying the view. And he says, I was just remembering that I had this coach in high school said that I was never going to leave Forest Hills. And here he is on this planet, on this team, overlooking this amazing city. And I thought that was just a really cool thing. And then, of course, things go bad at the end. But like, I really like the points that they make. Like, he's sitting here with two advisors. Peter is now, he's the president of the planet, and he's saying like, I rebel against the system. That's what I do. And they're like, well, isn't that like a kind of an immature view to take? And then they say, why not turn your Guardians into a galactic council where like you've been out there, you've seen what it's like you can make real change. And it'll be interesting to see what they have to do here. Like I really liked it for this stuff, like all the Black Vortex stuff, the trial of Jean Grey. Like I feel like this book really suffers when it gets into that crossover.
It does. And the other thing that's throwing me out of it too is knowing all the Secret War stuff is coming up. So
what is this going to do?
What is this even going to amount to? Because at the end, it looks like that's what's kind of happening.
What?
An incursion of sorts.
Well, yep, that's pretty much what it looks like, right?
So
I didn't know what it was at the end, but you're right. That does look like an incursion because of the red.
Like, what will the Guardians be, and will any of this even matter? I mean, you could say that before any huge crossover.
And right now, you could say that about pretty much every Marvel book. It's
sure.
Like, what does this look like? What does this look like in 4 months?
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, I'm going to end with 2 quickies. Very, very quickies. You have Mono. And that's Titan Comics. Sandoval and Brian Wood. If you like historical accuracy, then don't read this, because it is about a part ape human that is sent to a Japanese island filled with brainwashed and tampered with apes that are Japanese soldiers. And he's there to basically stop their experimentations and blow up the island.
Everything about this book sounds awesome.
Yes.
I haven't read this.
It has beautiful art. I love the inner monologue. And you have samurai apes and, apes with guns, and it's very fun. So search that out if you can. Or actually, they have it on Madefire. That's a digital platform, and it's pretty easy to find.
Cool.
And then if you have kids and you're hesitant to buy them Avengers or New Avengers, which I would be too, because they would be like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Perfect book came out this week. Operation Hydra, Avengers Operation Hydra. I'm talking like 9-10 years old. This is the perfect book. Easy reading. The art is decent.
And is this the Avengers team coming out in the movie?
Correct. Yes, exactly. That's what it is.
Okay, even looks like
It's
that,
their
by the way.
costumes. It's everything. And then a treat for the adults or even the kids. In the back, they have a reprint of when Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver like join the Avengers team. So it's fun, and for kids, it's well worth it.
Very good. All right. Well, it's going to do it for us this week. Definitely remember the things that we said. If you have any idea what Superman comic that was with the guy named Damios, because I can't find it, and it's going to bother me all weekend.
Yeah, I was off my game this week. I am sick, and I'm out of it.
That's all right.
Camera shoved down my throat. It's not a fun week.
And then again, like if you guys are reading Star Wars and you're Star Wars fans, like we really want to know what everybody thinks about Star Wars, because right now I'm really excited about it, and we want to know what you guys think of it. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping. We are Backup Stories. You could find us here every Friday when we try and record and we get the video out to you guys, but you could also download the audio version on the Talking Comics Special Edition feed. If you've been downloading us there and listening to us, like, leave a review. Let us know what you think of the show. You can follow me personally. I'm at Joroak, Joroak.
And I'm at Dusk1020.
Rob and I are both part of Talking Games, the Talking Games podcast. We're there every week. We talk about games and mostly food, because somehow we talked about food this week, even though you weren't on the show.
Did you really?
Yes.
That's great.
And I was like, I don't understand what's happening.
So it moved from weather to food.
Yes, that's pretty much it. And I wonder what's going to happen this summer. This week we talked about some Titan Souls, a little bit more Mortal Kombat, and we took a couple of listener questions. And somebody even asked us stuff about starting their own podcast. So hopefully we were able to help with that. So with all that in mind, that's going to do it for us, guys. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Adios.